Hello, everyone, and welcome to our review of The Witcher Netflix series. I'm Josh,
And I'm Ray.
and I don't know exactly how to start this. I was trying to think about what I had said previously on our podcast about how I felt about The Witcher leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't remember, and I'm too lazy to look, but
Okay.
I just remember talking about his wig, and of course, I'm talking about uh, what's his name?
Henry
Mark
Cavill.
Hamill, Henry Cavill.
Oh man.
I didn't do that on purpose. I,
Okay.
I really couldn't remember. Um, it's something about the syllables and the L. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Hamill, Cavill.
yeah, I'm retarded. And so I remember being cautiously. I wasn't really optimistic, really. I guess just cautiously waiting for it to actually come out before I had any opinions. I can't remember. I think I describe you as cautiously optimistic leading up
Yeah,
to
I
it.
think I think I think I did actually use the term cautiously optimistic. One because the wig, yeah, it didn't look great, and
Right.
two was the ball sack armor, which still looks like shit.
I was gonna say that's like that's pretty much at the end of the series, I think, where you really see that.
Episode
Like
one,
when the Nilfgaardians.
you see it right away in
Oh, do
episode
you?
one, though. Yeah, because you get the battle right away. But I guess like
Oh yeah, yeah. You
the
see it more though when they revisit the battle at the end, I
Yeah,
think.
because the first episode is like the battle happens so quickly, a lot of actions happening,
Yeah,
and then they
yeah,
come at night, so you can't really see the armor.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely there, but
yeah,
later on, you see it like in broad daylight,
mhm.
and it still looks not nearly as bad as it looks in a trailer.
yeah, a trailer or those pictures that went viral for a little bit.
Yeah, the trash bag armor.
But yeah, I figured we should just take a look at each episode one by one and kind of go into detail about what works and what doesn't really work for each episode. But
Mm,
I guess before doing that, how I don't think you've told me actually how you feel about the show after watching it.
right, like an overall
Yeah,
impression.
just overall.
I think overall I like it.
Okay.
Uh, and see you later, folks. Thanks for listening in.
This has
Um,
been the Me Boys reviews.
yeah, I mean, I like it as someone. I guess I should put this up front too. Like as someone who didn't read the books,
hmm
who hasn't played the games. I've watched people play The Witcher 3
Right.
and The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 1 actually games, but I've never read the books. I've never played the games personally. I'm not too invested in the world, but just coming as an outsider or a semi outsider to watching it just sort of as a generic fantasy title.
hmm
Um, I I think overall I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Like I liked it. I
hmm
think there's things that I definitely did not like about it,
And we'll get
but
to that.
overall, well, yeah, we'll definitely get to that. But like overall, with no attachment to the property, I
hmm
thought it was a uh, pretty competent fantasy series.
Yeah, and I
And
honestly I think like I'm on my second watch now because my
already,
no because my brother-in-law and sister are in town and
oh yeah,
um
yeah,
I told them I was gonna watch it with them, but they got here a few days after the show came out, so I'm like, I'm gonna
right. You
watch it
couldn't wait.
first. I have to watch the show right away, because honestly, I think The Witcher is probably my favorite. Like what's the word? I guess IP out there.
Right.
Um, you know, played all the games. Loved 2 and 3. One was a good like it's a fun experience. years years attached removed from from when it
Right.
actually came. And the books obviously are really good. So I like the show a lot. I think I might be a little biased just because I love this world a lot. So just seeing more of it
Right.
is a positive thing for me.
Mm,
Um, so on second viewing, obviously I'm seeing a lot some of the cracks of the bit. But I still think it's a solid show. I just wish they don't change too much more about what happens in the books.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and I'm gonna, just as a heads up to you and to everyone listening, all three of you, um, I'm gonna be asking about 100 times. Was this in the book?
that's fine. I'm gonna say right now though, my memory of what exactly happened is a little foggy. It's been a few years, but
Right.
best I can do for some scenes is like it didn't. I don't think that's how it went down. I have no memory of that happening the way it did.
Hmm.
Um, so let's I guess get right into it. Episode 1. Um, I
The
feel like
end's beginning.
yeah, I feel like the opening shot was a little bland. This is all nitpicky because we're discussing every episode. But like that just opening shot of like the dark woods and it's all gray and whatever.
Right.
Someone
Well,
pointed out.
that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, that's sort of just a criticism I have of the show in general.
Hmm.
I think we talked about it before, but there's like this sort of gray filter over everything,
Yeah.
and except in some scenes where it's like purposefully very like bright and saturated, it makes everything look really gross, and especially like greens, like the trees and stuff and grass, it looks like really ugly. I
Yeah.
think that's a intentional choice, but I just think it's not very pleasant to look at all.
Yeah. It sort of looks like when you edit a photo on Photoshop and you just turn the saturation way up. At least when they're in forest.
Or way down, you mean?
Way down. When oh yeah. I mean the green for the forest parts. Some of that green was like really bright.
Oh well, in a lot of scenes, like later on, when you're like with the that tribe in the forest,
Hmm.
there's like really crazy colors with that. But I'm actually okay with that. More ugly colors earlier on. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, so let's go over the plot for episode 1. Episode 1 is basically the battle between Sintra and Nilfgaard, and Geralt meeting Stregobor and Renfrey, who basically ask him to kill the other person. And then he goes into that monologue about lesser evils, which is a big, big theme in the books and the games. So it was
Mhm.
cool to see that in the show. It was kind of weird for them hearing them say lesser evil so many times.
It felt like they said a lot in the first
They
episode, right?
did. They definitely did. And just overall the show, they keep saying Destiny. I want to see someone make an edit on YouTube just the amount of times they say Destiny on this show. They do say it a lot in the books too, so I don't blame them.
Lesser evil, destiny. Fuck.
Um,
Yaskier.
so honestly, I think episode 1 is probably one of the strongest episodes the show has.
Yeah.
The weird. I think my main complaint maybe with episode 1 is maybe not episode 1, but this goes into it is that with the show, I think they hired someone who's a little too old to be Ciri, because Ciri in the books is supposed to be like I want to say 8 or 10.
Oh really?
Um, in the show, she's already a teenager, probably 14, 15.
Yeah, I thought she looked pretty young, and she's obviously not 8. But
Yeah.
I had no idea that she was supposed to be that young at this point.
Yeah, so she's
Before we go,
definitely playing down age-wise from what she
Right.
actually is, what the actress actually is. But she's definitely supposed to be younger.
so before we go further, at what point in the timeline is this? Because I know it's like before the events of like The Witcher 3. I can't really go by the books because I don't really know them. So it's before The Witcher 3 because she's already adult by that point, right?
Yeah,
Or at least like a older teenager.
yeah. So this is all before the games, before before the first game.
Oh, okay.
So basically, what it is that the short stories, which is what Geralt's scenes are based on,
Mhm.
are all taking place before the main saga in the book. And the main saga in the book is Geralt and Ciri, basically.
Oh, okay.
So what Sapkowski did was back in the day he used to write short stories about this guy who was a monster hunter, and then he would throw things here and there, and then he he made the story which linked Geralt and Ciri, and then he made a saga out of it.
And that became what was The Witcher, the part with him and Ciri.
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically, season 1 is the short stories, and then I think after that we're gonna start seeing this saga.
Right. Well, like, yeah, this episode 1 is how he gets the nickname Butcher of Blaviken.
Right. So again, that was something that got me really giddy. I'm like, ooh, I know what this story is.
Ooh, he's gonna kill some people. I'm so giddy.
Yeah. So I think plot-wise with the books, it's pretty much spot on. The only thing I would say is kind of weaker about the show rather than the books is that in the books, so obviously same thing happens. He's given an ultimatum by Renfri and by Stregobor. Kill the other person. It's the lesser evil. And he doesn't want to do any of that shit because he doesn't believe in that. But his hand is forced because Renfri's gang says, help us kill Stregobor or we kill this town.
That's a big difference. That's in the book you're talking about?
That's in the book, yeah. So they threaten to kill the town.
Big difference.
And then it forces his hand.
Right.
Now, they kind of allude to that in the show, but it's more like, oh, Renfri's about to go kill Stregobor. Let me stop her. And they see him.
Yeah, the gang is sort of just standing around, and then Geralt walks up and they say, all right, this is the point in the script where we have a fight. It's like, it's not really, they don't really explain why they're fighting. Really.
Yeah.
They just kind of start.
Yeah, so it's just like, I just think the motivations are a lot more clear when the gang's like, hey, we're going to kill this entire town if you don't help us, or if you don't leave us alone to do this. And so he's like,
oh yeah, I think Geralt in he's coming back to the town because he knows that she's going to the tower.
Yeah.
And then that's when he runs into them, but it's not really clear that that's why they're fighting him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they want to stop him from going there, but they don't say like anything about any sort of collateral damage, I don't think.
Right. And I think the fact that, so the whole thing is that he is perceived as the guy who killed this group of people unprovoked.
Right.
So the whole town turns against him, and I think it works a lot better when the whole town is goes against him, but the fact is he actually tried to save them.
Right. You're right. You get that dramatic irony in there where everybody's against him when he did it for their benefit.
Exactly.
I thought like a lot of the criticisms I have for the show are sort of very minor nitpicks, but the scene where he's standing there and they're throwing rocks at him.
Yeah.
And a rock hits his head and he just like, he makes a weird face. I'm like, this is weird. Like, I don't know. That scene felt very odd to me. I don't know why. But there's a lot of things in the show that just feel like slightly off. It's like, that's odd.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I know what you mean. But I think other than that, I think that's really all I have to. That's my nitpick with episode 1.
Well, you probably have another nitpick with it in that when he goes into the tower of the what's his name, the wizard?
Stregobor.
And this is once again the first episode, and we're seeing, I'm guessing it's an illusion that he set up so that there's these naked women all around and it's very bright and colorful.
Yeah.
And Geralt's yellow eyes are glowing and it's all like washed out, really strong colors, weird looking, and I'm like, what am I looking at?
See, I didn't really think episode 1 there was a problem with his eyes. I noticed it way more in episode 2, and maybe I think when we discuss episode 2, I'm gonna put a screenshot of the scene I'm talking about because it's really bad in episode 2.
I noticed it a lot in 1, but maybe I'll remember it in 2 too. But yeah, that's sort of another. I'll wait till the end to discuss like overall things.
Mm-hmm.
But like his eyes and then Yennefer's eyes, it's like it just felt like, oh, look, an actor wearing those colored contacts.
Mm-hmm. I think Yennefer's...
I don't believe they are. I think it's an effect.
I think they're contacts.
Oh, do you think Yennefer's are? Or do you think both of them are?
I think Geralt's are, because I don't see his eyes dilate much. So I think they're context,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Those are those tiny details that I couldn't notice. But yeah, so I didn't really like. Well, first of all the terribly gray colors and the disgusting greens,
Mhm.
and then you go into his tower, and all of a sudden, it's like so bright, and Geralt's yellow eyes are looking at him. I'm like, ooh, this is weird. It's pretty much everything about episode one.
Oh, I guess
Um,
one thing before I forget, I have to comment on the fight choreography in episode one.
mhm.
I really enjoyed the fight choreography in episode one. I think I've enjoyed the fight choreography in all the episodes that have a good amount of fighting. I think
Yeah.
it's really entertaining. It doesn't look too sloppy. Although I saw someone slow it down a little bit on episode one, and you can see he's holding one of the sword when he has a dual sword at some point. He's holding
Mhm.
one of them by not on the handle. What do you call it? He's holding the sharp edges in his hand.
Uh,
So
yeah, I don't remember that part. But
yeah, I didn't see it. I mean, it happens fast enough, and I guess like when he was acting and he's in the
was
heat
he
of the moment,
throwing it perhaps?
he was about to throw it.
Because yeah, if you throw a blade, then you can hold it by. Well, you hold it by the
He
blade
he
usually to
fought a
throw it.
little for like a few seconds with it though, and then he throws it.
Fighting with the handle while the blade's digging into his hand.
Um,
But yeah, I'd agree about the choreography. I think at some points and some battles, I probably can't point them out specifically, but it did feel a little bit too much like choreography. Like it felt more like a dance than a fight,
mhm.
which is a whole big thing for them. I know they wanted to sort of have it feel like a dance when they were fighting. Sort of, I think that's how Witchers are supposed to be trained in sword fighting.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's funny because never in my life have I read about fighting, and they use dancing terms so often in the books.
mhm.
Like the amount of times the word pirouette was used
Right. Yeah.
was so. I think Henry Cavill did an interview where he talked about like dance
I
and
think I
fight.
watched that one.
I think it was something
Yeah.
like that. But I think yeah,
And
episode one. Oh, go ahead.
I guess the one last thing we should mention about episode one is just sort of we're seeing the end of Sintra in episode one,
Yeah, this
and
is
sort of setting up the multiple timelines thing because we're seeing at least two different times in episode one. I'm not sure if we see a third time
no, because they don't
because
introduce Yennefer yet, so it is just the two times.
right.
So yeah, so I forget who I was talking to about it, but basically I said when you're watching this show, just pick up the details in conversation because they are all in different timelines.
Yeah.
So Geralt was talking to Renfrey, and she had mentioned like, you know, I could have been anything. Queen Calanthe just won her first battle, and then the previous series had said that you know Queen Calanthe was her age when she had her first battle. So I'm like, oh okay, so they're doing all these stories at the same time. Well, one because the showrunner said she wants to make these three characters main characters right away. They don't want it to just be Geralt's story first and then,
Right.
which I get. But it is kind of weird. Like we just get introduced to this show and the kingdom falls apart right away.
Yeah. Generally, I'm not a big fan of having multiple timelines. I especially at the beginning when you're like introducing everything. Though I understand uh, why she would want to do that if that is the reason, just to have your characters set up simultaneously, so uh, you sort of have equal viewing for Geralt's story and Yennefer's story and
Mhm.
Ciri's story,
Yeah.
and then they're all converging. But generally, I like a more streamlined sort of narrative where you're just going from point A to point B. But
Yeah.
I was never really confused.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think some people were criticizing the show for using the timelines. That then made it like unnecessarily confusing.
Confusing. Yeah.
But I didn't like. This is nowhere near the worst use of that. Like I've definitely had problems with that before, but it I'd say at the most it's slightly annoying, but it's never it's never like so vague that you wouldn't understand exactly,
Yeah. And I think
as long as you're actually watching.
yeah, I think as long as you're paying attention, I think you really shouldn't. There shouldn't be any problems with following the timeline because they make it clear that they make it clear that Geralt is happening way before Ciri, and then they make it clear that Yennefer is happening before Geralt. And um, and then at the end, like as I was watching the show, I'm like, the timeline thing is kind of weird. I feel like they could facilitate new fans, maybe more friendly. But at the end, I think it all wraps up pretty well. But we'll get
Oh
there.
yeah, I did like it all coming to the end. But okay, so that's episode 1. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty much everything I thought about that.
Now we're on episode 2, 4 marks.
4 marks. And this is about Yennefer's origin.
I'm gonna say this is probably the weakest episode.
I'd probably agree with you. I mean, I have to remember all the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember. I think around this episode was when I texted you about
yeah
about watching, and
you were not
basically
having
no, not really. Like I do like the origin, or like I guess like the general idea of the origin of Yennefer.
yeah.
But like it's shot, and the script is very much like a show targeting like 12-year-olds,
Yeah,
like a
so
magical school show.
yeah, so this is what I
Harry
think.
Potter.
I think that this episode is at its weakest. The show is at its weakest with this episode because there is no source material about Yennefer's origin.
Right.
We know
So
she
they're
was a
just
hunchback, and
making it up.
we know a little bit about her magic upbringing, but everything else they kind of have to make up.
Mhm.
So that kind of scares me because I'm like, all right, so this is what these writers do when they don't have
Right.
much.
They're showing that creating is not their strong suit.
yeah. Which is a weakness that Game of Thrones had. Once they were finished with the books, it all sort of fell apart.
So the archaeologist magic guy,
Uh-huh.
he's not a real character.
He's a real
He's just
character.
made up.
He's a real character.
Oh, he is.
It's just
Because whenever he was on screen, I was completely bored with him and Yennefer's relationship. I did not care about that at all.
it's hard to care. I mean, at least for us, because we know that it's about Geralt and Yennefer. It's hard to
Right.
care about a relationship when you know where they're gonna end up later.
Yeah.
um,
And they'll come up again when we talk about Triss, but that's
Yeah.
another thing.
but I mean, I will say I like the actress who plays Yennefer. I think she's done a really good
Oh
job.
no,
so
she's
far.
great.
I just don't recognize her fully yet as Yennefer because it's her origin story.
Hmm.
It's just
Are you saying at this point in the episode, or now having watched the whole thing?
Definitely at this episode and the next one. As the show goes on, you see glimpses of it.
Hmm.
It's just you never really got the impression in the games that Yennefer was ever weak, basically.
Yeah, it sort of, and that sort of goes along with my thing about it. Sort of feels like this weird child show about a magical school.
Mhm.
Like the way she's portrayed, like I don't know why she's a hunchback, but she's also sticking her tongue into the corner of her mouth.
I think
at
she's
least
got-
that's what it looks like.
I think she's got.
It's not
something
actually
there.
her tongue because her tongue's just there. I
Yeah.
think it's some sort of like growth or tumor or something.
It's
but like it just looks very silly.
it's chewing tobacco.
Yeah, she's dipping. She's packing a fat lip.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know, and like she acts very like simple almost. I mean, I guess she was raised on a farm or something, but then it doesn't. I'll talk about this more towards the end, but the fact that it's only 8 episodes
Mhm.
and the way series are now, they don't appear on TV, they're online. Everything comes out at once.
Yeah.
A lot of things feel like there's not enough time to develop them. They just
Yep.
have to happen. Boom, 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 boom. But I don't want to get into that too much now. But her change from like being completely inept and the teacher making fun of her to actually being able to do stuff is just sort of very quick.
It is very quick, yeah.
So I don't really like.
Buy it.
I can't relate to her
Hmm.
when she's like talking about how much she suffered or whatever, because it's like it was one episode, if that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not very impactful to me.
um, yeah, and then it goes from her being one of the weaker students to at the very end of the same episode, her being the one that her teacher Tesea basically likes the most.
Right, and that's at the. I guess we didn't even say at the beginning about spoilers, but I guess this whole thing is spoilers.
We'll
Um,
put it in the title.
yeah, spoiler warning. Um, is it at the end of this episode that her classmates get turned into the eels and she's
Yeah.
there with her?
Yeah.
Right. So like pretty much right away she's a chosen one for
Yeah.
some reason.
And I'm gonna start off by saying I don't, because a lot of things in this show have no source material. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
that the eel thing is not part of.
Is that not a thing at all?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't especially care about it being like eels in water. I think the idea of it is good,
Yeah.
that you have, these magical colleges or whatever where uh these girls are being trained, but most of them are just being used for their power.
Yeah.
They're not given any agency over their lives like Yennefer gets.
Yeah.
So
So.
I like that idea, and that sort of parallels Nilfgaard as well, because in Nilfgaard they're quite literally using their bodies, for magic, and in this they're sort of just becoming magical power generating eels.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of it.
Yeah. See, so when we break down everything, just word by word, it just sounds like really weird.
Yeah.
Also, again, like this idea of like dark magic, or that sorceresses would have to kill themselves to become. I mean, we'll get there. Also, like it's never been talked about in the books like that, being like that.
So has it never been talked about using something has to be used in order to create magic
So
that they go into so heavily in this episode?
not really. So I told you I sort of like the
Right, you said you
idea,
like that.
because I don't know, it's kind of cool having the idea of that you have to give something up in order to use magic.
Mm.
So I don't mind
And it
that.
also gives you an out as a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever I watch something where someone has crazy magical powers,
Mm-hmm.
once they've revealed that they have these powers, in every scene afterwards where there's any issue, I'm asking, why don't they just blow everybody up? Why don't they just use their powers?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, when you have to be more calculated with it,
Yeah.
you have to have certain reagents, or else you're using your own self.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting, and
So-
that gives you an excuse not to use it all the time and just have a regular show from that point on.
Yeah, I think it's sort of been explored that if you use a lot of magic, it can be harmful for the sorcerer or sorceress. So I think they're just kind of going a little. They're elevating that basically, but essentially, in this world, that a sorceress or a sorcerer is just a conduit of magic.
Chaos.
So as long as as long as there is a source of magic power, they can channel it.
Mhm.
So I think that's why the eel idea does kind of work. I just don't think eels were the best.
No, I mean, it could have been anything. They could have just turned them into magical energy,
Mhm.
and they would just stayed in the tower as flying around energy ghosts.
Right.
Like, I think that would have been better. I don't know why it was eels.
Yeah.
Um,
Sort of weird. I guess the visual of turning into a snake-like being.
Yeah.
Is sort of.
I mean, like when their cloaks were like collapsing on themselves because they were turned into eels, like it just all felt very like low to mid budget-ish,
Yeah.
Harry Potter like clones. Like this whole episode, I was kind of like not feeling the series because I was only 2 episodes in.
Yeah.
And it was all this stuff, and I might go into this a little bit later, but the whole idea of a character that uses magic and they have to put their hands out and they make that stupid face, like they're straining really hard, like you point your fingers out in all directions and you're making a weird face. I've always hated that. Like, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because like they're straining so hard to do this magical thing where it's like, why does that have to be a thing? Because it just makes the character look stupid. Like, like, and I want to go into this, but I'll have to go into it later. Like with Siri and stuff, and using her powers, I hate these like overused tropes.
Yeah.
Of people using magic and it looking like 11 from Stranger Things, where someone just looks constipated and they're flexing their fucking fingers, and it's like, this doesn't look cool. I think they're making it because they think it looks cool. It doesn't. Like, it just looks weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of, it's the go-to thing, I guess, when it comes to showing off your powers in a visual way.
This episode could definitely turn some people off, I think.
Yeah, and
I don't think everyone feels the same way about me in terms of like what I just talked about. In general, I think when you're watching this, you're going to feel like, oh, this is Harry Potter. This is something trying to be something else, or it's not really what The Witcher is.
Yeah,
like the politics of the mages school, like that's probably referred to, but not as important.
Yeah. So that's the Yennefer's part of the episode.
Right. Yeah, I might have gone a little too long on that one.
And this is the part where we disagree, because this is where we meet Jaskier, aka Dandelion.
Right. So he meets him. I think it's just a random scene. He's at a bar drinking, and then he happens to be busking there.
Yeah. So they meet because Geralt's the only one who didn't shit on his performance, basically.
Right. Didn't throw stuff at him.
So it looks like, just looking at social media and everything and talking to some people love
Everybody
him.
loves him.
People love Jaskier.
Everybody loves him. Well, apparently he's an actual lute player.
Oh, that's cool.
I believe I think he plays the lute. And he has like an actual band, and because of this, he's gotten like a lot more popular, and that's awesome.
That's good for him.
I think like they got him because he was like one of the only people they could find that could like play the lute and sing and also act.
Well,
he's not.
He was interviewed on like the red carpet premiere for it, and they asked him like, what attracted you to this role? And he just said, well, being an ass for 30 years and annoying people. I'm like, that's the perfect answer for Dandelion.
Right, yeah. He fits the character well.
Yeah. But you don't like him.
So yeah, and it's another one of those things where,
is it the trope basically? It's not nothing about him. It's just
it's more about the trope than anything. I mean, like I said, I'm very happy that this guy got more attention to his musical career and whatnot, and I have nothing personally against the actor. I don't know his name, but it's more to the trope. Like I was talking about the trope with the magic users. It's sort of the trope of having to have this comical relief character,
right, with your deadpan,
with your gruff
character.
Right. I mean, and I'm saying that, but that's like the basis of so much comedy is you have the fool and the straight man.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call them. And so I understand that. I'm not like above anyone's comedy taste, but I just sort of get exhausted by comedy relief characters just because you can almost hear the laugh in your head, where if it was on a TV, they would put a fucking laugh track in of like, and I don't know much about the books, but I know the games it doesn't take itself that seriously. Like there's a lot of comedy in there. It's not a grim, dark kind of game.
Nah, there's definitely like a lot of, especially on Geralt's part, a lot of sarcastic humor.
Yeah.
And Dandelion.
Well, yeah, sarcastic humor I'm fine with. Dandelion is more upfront, just like sitcom kind of humor almost.
Yeah. It's with the games, the weird thing about Dandelion, it always bothered me. It's just like everyone's either got a British, Scottish, European accent. Dandelion's out there being like Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, really? He just had like a very normal accent.
Yeah, very American accent. Just
American accent. Yeah, there you go.
It's just so funny. It's so weird. I mean, Geralt in the games has an American accent, but
right. I mean, yeah, and that's the English version of the game. I'm not sure if they have voice acting in different languages in the game.
They did.
So I'm sure it's different there.
Yeah.
Although that would be funny if he still had an American accent in the different languages.
Yeah. So I mean, I like him. I like the relationship they have.
Well,
I think
that's another thing too. uh, as I interrupt you. Like I was saying before, and this is something I'll talk more about at the end, but the fact that there's 8 episodes, I did not feel the relationship there. Like he bothered him a little bit once, and then all of a sudden he's his traveling companion, and Geralt complains a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the issue is they meet once, and then the next episode where they're together, it's been years and they're best friends. Well, he says
Also,
they're best
it's
friends.
been years between when we first see them and when we see them afterwards.
Yeah, so I think so. The first time we meet them, and then the next time we meet them, I think it's probably been months instead of years. But so
And I
basically,
think he does. I think Yaskier does say something along those lines,
yeah,
so
it's
that
like
we
it's
really know.
yeah, it's been a while, Garrow, blah blah blah.
But I didn't remember that, and it's not really like something that sticks out. So, like in my mind, it just feels like they've just met. Okay, all of a sudden he's traveling with him. Geralt's like mostly okay with it, begrudgingly. So it felt a little weird and forced that way.
It's onion.
I mean, I guess we should also talk about Geralt's voice. I was a little worried about that too.
I think he.
Mostly, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think there are a few points where it's just like he's doing it a little too hard, too much. He's trying a little too
Right.
hard.
Well, yeah, you got to force yourself to do it.
Yeah. But he did say he was wondering what voice to use because Game Geralt has such an iconic or memorable
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
So he wasn't sure if he should do an American accent, but then he listened to the audiobook for it, and a guy did it in an English accent, and so he was just like, yeah, all right, and I'll just do my regular accent just with more gruff.
Mhm.
So
No,
I think it
I
works.
think it's overall pretty good.
Mhm.
But yeah, there are some moments where I'm listening to it and I'm hearing him force his voice to do that,
Yeah.
and so it sort of takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But
Because Geralt's the kind of character who wouldn't ever change his voice to sound more intimidating. Really, I don't think.
yeah,
He just wouldn't care enough about that.
Yeah, he just is intimidating.
Right. So we have Yennefer in this episode. We have Yaskier, who just to reiterate, I understand the whole comedy duo type trope, but I prefer comedy that just happens naturally rather than having a character sort of tell the audience that this is going to be something funny now.
Toss a coin to your witcher.
And I wasn't a huge fan of the songs. I don't know why.
I really like the song.
A lot of people like it, dude. Honestly, like like on YouTube, I saw a bunch of like toss a coin to your Witcher 10-hour compilation
yeah,
or whatever.
I saw that.
And like this got hundreds of thousands of views. So like people like this shit.
Yeah.
I don't find the songs offensive. I just don't really like them that much. I don't know. And then the songs that that's pretty much everything about it. Like I think the actor's good. I just don't really like that kind of character, but that's more of a personal thing than a shot at the show.
Right.
And then so what else happens in this episode?
I mean, Ciri meets that the elf boy, and then she goes into that camp, and the camp gets attacked.
Right.
I mean, largely overall, not much really happens. I feel like.
Oh, actually, this episode I think is like sort of the introduction to some of like the racism in the world of The Witcher, basically.
Yeah. Well, you have that the dwarf guy who.
Right. Although honestly, it's not portrayed very well. Because like, well, first of all, what threw me off, and this happens more so in like the Dragon Hunt episode, but like the fact that you have whatever you want to call them, little people playing dwarves, and they call them dwarves, but dwarf is also another name for little people, but some people find that offensive.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting because they're all played by smaller people.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So I was kind of like, I wonder how people feel about this, because I'm conditioned to always think about what Twitter will think when I see something like that. But I just thought that was kind of funny. And then sort of it takes away some of the strength of sort of giving you sympathy for people when you see that how poorly this dwarf is treated.
Yeah.
When like once again it feels kind of rushed. She obviously the mistress treats him very poorly, but like a little bit after we meet him, all of a sudden he's like brutally butchering her. So it's like, oh, well, maybe racism is correct. I don't know. Because like you don't really have any context for it. That's the first dwarf you're meeting.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think I knew he was a dwarf until later on in the Dragon Hunt episode where they say, oh, they're dwarves. I'm like,
Right.
okay. Because I didn't know that was like what the race was. And then, of course, you've got, well, it's a good thing I'm bringing this up. Geralt going to find the so-called devil.
Yeah.
And he ends up running into the elves.
Yeah.
And so the elves are sort of been pushed out of their land, and they've got a sort of a hatred for humans and whatnot.
Yeah, which is like really well explored in the books and also in the games with the Scoia'tael.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of interactions with them, and basically, they were once lived in harmony. Humans just got greedy and decided to kill off the elves.
Yep. Yeah, so, it's sort of a parallel to like Native Americans or something like that. At least that's what I think of when I see it.
Yeah, so I think the elves scenes set up the racism a lot better than the dwarf who stabs his master.
Yeah, it's like and
also, but this is probably going to be the point of video where I put up the eyes in that scene that I'm talking about, where he's in the tower with Filavandrel, and he's talking to him, and the camera is like tilted upwards at Geralt, and so his eyes it just looks like they're popping out, and he looks like a lizard.
That's his intimidation. And then one last thing I'll say about episode 2 is that this is also when we saw the quote unquote devil he's searching for, which is a satyr, I believe.
Right.
And his CG just looks pretty bad, in my opinion. I did not like how he looked.
It kind of looked like a costume.
Yes, I mean, it looked exactly like a costume. But I almost would have preferred if it was a bad real costume as compared to a bad CG costume.
So, well, last thing I'll say is about that is apparently the costume designer for the show has already been let go.
Dude, that's gotta hurt. When a season goes well and you get fired because you're the weakest link.
They really were, though. It's like,
I mean, that ball sack armor. Who did that?
let me think. I want to.
Just on that note.
Yeah.
I know this is like the least important part of the show, probably, but also I forgot to mention at the very beginning of episode 1, we see that sort of spider-looking monster in the swamp.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. The humanoid face.
I like the design enough.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of cool to have the humanoid face and the spider. It reminds me of this movie. I can't remember which movie right now, but the CG is like just not quite there for me.
Well, even the
like
battle, the battle with Nilfgaard and Sindra, it didn't look great, but
yeah, a lot of things just look like slightly off, and I'd prefer like a more practical approach. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the first shot of the series is this sort of CG spider fight, and some like the face of it looks okay, but then the way it moves looks really weird. Yeah, and it just feels like lower to middle budget, not what you want representing your show type thing.
It sort of surprised me that was the first shot they decided to go with.
And the big problem is, and this comes up a little later actually as well, is that even though it's gray and whatnot, they have enough light on it so you can see it entirely. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I had not a huge, I don't know what their budget was for anything really, but if I had a not huge budget for CG, I would try to use lighting to sort of let people use their imaginations to sort of expand on that monster rather than showing the spider from It, the original TV series.
Well, they clearly did want to try to hide it because when he's killed it, they're only showing the one leg on the horse.
Which is stupid also because I was like, did he only take one leg from it? Because it could not fit under that one blanket. I don't understand what that was. Maybe he didn't take all of it.
Poor Roach.
But I was like...
the weight of the...
Well, that's the thing. He didn't look weighty at all. He looked like he was a fucking puppet, which he was. I don't know. But he didn't look too weighty. Mm-hmm. Don't touch Roach. Okay, but that's the CG thing out of the way.
Yeah.
I don't care about like bad CG generally, but if you know your CG is not great, then try to hide it a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that's all for episode 2 as well. Let's go to 3. So that's Betrayer Moon, and that's basically two main things happen. Yennefer gets transformed, and Geralt kills the Striga, which is the first
he doesn't
ever.
kill it, does he?
I'm sorry, he battles the Striga,
Mhm.
and that's the first ever cinematic the Witcher games ever made, was him fighting the Striga.
Mm.
So that was kind of cool to see that in live action, with CG obviously, but again, just Yennefer scenes, especially this one, it felt very high school romance to me.
Basically, everything that Yennefer is in feels like it's somehow for a younger demographic than the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why. I mean, I know why, but I don't understand why they would do it that way. I'm sure it's not purposeful, but like.
Yeah, so I guess just to go through her story in this episode quick.
Yeah.
She gets assigned to Nilfgaard. But she wants to go to Edirne, which is where she's from.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, all these other sorcerers on the Brotherhood, I think it's the Brotherhood, don't want her on Edirne, and they want her in Nilfgaard because Nilfgaard is seen as this backwater country.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Even though it's about to take over the world.
Because, well, this is part of the reason why they have ballsack armor, is because they're militia from a backwater country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never really been the case with Nilfgaard.
Right, yeah. I mean, I know in the games they have like plate armor.
Right. So obviously,
it's just like smooth plate with
yeah,
like gold trim on it. It's not ballsack armor.
So obviously, at the point in the
weird
games, like Emir has turned Nilfgaard into a huge empire, whereas in the books and what the show is doing is Nilfgaard building that empire.
Right.
But Nilfgaard was never a shit.
It was never nothing.
Yeah. So it's weird that they're deciding to do that. And it's weird that I feel like part of the reason why they become so successful is because of who they got as a mage, which is Fringilla.
Mm-hmm.
So these decisions are a little weird. I'm not totally offended by them, but it's just kind of weird. I'm offended by the ballsack armor, I will say.
It's just so it doesn't have any redeeming like you can have. There's been so many examples of ugly armor throughout history, but it serves a practical purpose.
Yeah, these
at least a practical purpose that they thought would work, but maybe it didn't work out. There's no practical purpose really, unless the ridges of the ball sack will catch a blade. Like it just looks so ugly, and
maybe the armor expands.
I
when
really
it's
like
hot.
it balloons out. It's always moving.
Yeah.
I really like the design of Nilfgaardian armor, like from like Gwent and like from the Witcher games.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Like I like how that looked. I think I like more than any of the other armors because it's got a very cool look to it. And then this is just like,
And even
we'll give you
beyond the games, I like the design of the Sintron armor. So I don't understand why Nilfgaard is so crap.
I mean, the Sintron armor is very much like just standard Eddie armor. Like you can't really go wrong.
Right. So I just don't. I don't get.
Which in this ended up being because everything else looks like shit.
Yeah.
It is a very we gotta stop going to that armor again. But yeah, so I found it kind of weird too. What's her name? The sorceress that goes to Nilfgaard.
Fringilla.
Fringilla. I found her character kind of weird because there's no transformation for her. In terms of obviously this whole thing is shortened. They're getting to 8 episodes, getting everything out of the way. But like she's in the academy, she ruins her hand, and then I guess during the whatever the finale is called, she fixes her appearance, and then she goes off to Nilfgaard, and automatically she's taken over by the ideals of Nilfgaard.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, like they're
like immediately she's radicalized.
Each episode is supposed to be. Some episodes are supposed to be years apart, so it's. Yeah, they probably should do a better job of like what exactly are these ideals, but it's very
But
focused on Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri.
it's weird. Like the other, like the court sorceresses or whatever they are, they all seem to be like they're serving these kingdoms, but they have their own sort of agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for Jill, it's just sort of like she went there and all of a sudden she's like, yeah, let's go Nilfgaard. Unless she has her own hidden agenda that's not been addressed.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed like, okay, all of a sudden you became a puppet. That seems weird.
Yeah. What
But
else?
Yennefer.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Yennefer, gets rid of her. What does she get rid of?
her her fallopian tubes, her reproductive system.
Yeah. She gets rid of that, and I mean, those scenes are cool. Like the screaming while Geralt is fighting the Striga, who has a scream as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of cool. It's just sort of weird to me that does she not know she's giving that up? She knows she's giving it up. The guy says
That's
so.
a big point that I want to talk about with Yennefer's character.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because in the games, it's always been mentioned, in the books, it's been mentioned that she can't have kids because she's a sorceress. So I'm like, okay, so it's probably like a magic thing. Like, because she's a magical being, she just can't have kids. Whatever, there's some sort of magical explanation. They literally just surgically removed it.
yeah, and they show it to the camera and they say, "Look, you know what this is, right? You took health class," and then they burn it up. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. So it is funny because it's like a perfect little, like, I don't know how you removed it completely intact, and like it's just like a perfect diagram of what what a uterus is. I was trying to think of the name the whole time. I can only remember the fallopian tubes. So a couple of things there. First of all,
it's the
I
clitoris.
think this scene, yeah, that would have been even better. You can become beautiful, but we will remove your clitoris. You can no longer feel. But no. But so one thing I'll address here is whoever made this decision was a big friend to the fans, because we see Yennefer's breasts like more than we see her face, pretty much.
We do.
like half the scenes that she's in, they're out, and I'm not complaining, but I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it seemed weird that she had to be naked in that scene.
Yeah, it just seemed like extra. Like you don't.
I mean, when you're going through a big body
he's remaking her. He probably like gave her a medieval boob job or whatever.
Yeah, she probably had to be.
I just thought that was funny, and like a lot of scenes with her. Obviously, like she's part of her character, at least in this. I'm guessing it's the same in like the books and the games, but she's like she's a very sexual person, and so like I get that she's not really that concerned about exposing herself, which more power to you. But it's funny how many scenes there are that she has her tits out and like nobody else does that. We never see the Witcher's dick, but that's kind of funny. And then also the criticism that you brought up, which was pretty much the main criticism of the show, I think, is that it sort of does her character a disservice the way they set it up, because she has gained her magical powers.
Yeah,
she has them. She's learned how to use them. And so the final awakening process, I don't know if there's something they didn't talk about like you can't use your magic fully until you have this process or whatever, but I'm pretty sure when she goes into that magical surgeon guy, it's just so that she can change her appearance.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And so she goes in there and she says, I want you to change my appearance. Yeah. And he says, well, you know what the consequences are, right? Like, I think he literally says, I'm going to remove your uterus. Like, and then he shows it to the camera again. A diagram.
He takes out a diagram. He takes out one of those models with the body parts.
Yeah. It's got like a half
he
open
says,
body.
if you are to be reborn,
you won't be able to bear children or some shit.
Yeah, if you are to be reborn, you may never birth another or something like that.
Right. And she doesn't even think about it. She's just like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm down.
And so, yeah, I'm down. I want to get rid of this hunchback. And so she does, and then once again, because the series is so short, shortly after, a baby dies, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Man, I want to be a mother." And it's like, well, what? Like, she's supposed to be like, obviously characters can have emotions and motivations, but she's like a very like calculating character in how she uses her sex appeal and uses her magic to get what she wants.
Yeah.
But they just made her into an idiot who doesn't understand consequences. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't line up, because immediately she wants to have a kid, and all of a sudden she goes back to the magical, I can't remember what, do you remember what the place is called with the tower and the eels and whatnot?
Aretusa.
Across that bridge. Aretusa. She goes back to Aretusa saying, they took everything from me. They tricked me into, it's like, what? No. Nobody, they literally took you in out of a terrible situation. They helped you control your magic. They said, "Are you sure you want to lose your ability to make children?" You said, "Yeah, I'm down with that."
And
They didn't do anything.
yeah, and I can sort of understand like heat of the moment and emotions and all that, but it's just sort of like,
Right.
I just think the fact that there's an actual
You have no
surgery.
one to blame but yourself.
Yeah, if there's an actual
Like,
surgery, look, I don't know if that's how Sapkowski like actually
yeah, I have no
envisioned
idea about that.
how that worked, if that's how it was.
But that's once again the sort of like giving up something to use magic sort of thing.
Right. I just sort of think that if she was born with powers and she later discovered it, and then later discovered that because she is magic, she is not able to bear children, I just think that works better.
Her character being angry about it would also work if they didn't tell her that it was going to be her ability to have kids that they were taking away.
Yeah, or
If
that.
the guy had just said,
All
if the
right.
guy had just said, you, in order to transform, you'll need to give up part of yourself. And she says, okay. And she didn't realize that that meant she could never have kids.
Yeah.
Or whatever like that. Or she was forced to go through the process. She said, no, I'm fine with my hunchback. And they said, no, we're going to, even though that would change her as a character, but I'm just saying. So that kind of put me off her as a relatable character in that aspect, at least, because like you made a mistake because you didn't consider that you may later want children.
Mm.
It's not that dude's fault who made you over. He did a really good job. Like, and you show us throughout the whole series how good of a job he did.
That's true.
But she's very attractive.
She is.
And as an actress, she's pretty good. I've never seen her in anything, but
No, this is basically her first like production. She's a stage actor.
Oh,
is what I've read.
That's pretty cool.
Elsewhere, Geralt fights the Striga.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great.
I thought parts of it were great. My criticism comes up again with the fact that, like, if your effects aren't going to be the best, don't put a lot of light on them and show them center frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of times the Striga looked like a person wearing a rubber costume, which kind of put me out of it. I liked most of the fighting they did. Like, I liked the falling through the floor stuff. I liked, both of them jumping for the coffin.
Yeah.
Geralt gets in there and it's like screaming and he covers himself up. And then I also like the part where they almost both kill each other when she turns into a human, but she doesn't know what the hell's going on. But when they show the Striga for like a long period of time from the front, and it just looks very rubbery and kind of like I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But like,
look really rubbery.
If you were to, like, I don't like how it looks. I like the scene. I just don't like how the monster looks. But they focus on it. I liked Geralt using I was about to say his Thum. That's Skyrim. He's got his push.
Oh, Ard.
Ard.
Because
that's always
Ard.
Who uses it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it hits the rubber Ard. That always looks cool when he does it because he does it one fluid motion. He puts his hand out. That force follows through. It's visible, and you see it being pushed.
And it's quick. It's not something he has to concentrate on.
Right. He's not wrinkling up his face and screaming and putting his hand out. Obviously, it's pure magic. Yeah. Obviously, this is weaker magic, so it's not the same thing. But that flows so much better. But overall, yeah, I did like that, and it's also good because it sets up. Actually, no. I mean, really, the first episode, or is that the second episode?
First.
Which is the one where he Butch Blaviken one is the first one.
Yeah, that's the
So
first one.
that really sets him up as like he's a blade for hire, but within himself he has morals that he doesn't want to harm anyone really. Like he'd rather avoid that, and he'll try everything he can not to harm people unnecessarily. And so you see that when he eventually has to kill. I can't remember her name because I can't remember any of these names, but the cursed princess or whatever.
Renfrey, yeah.
Renfrey. And then in this situation where he's actually more successful, and it's sort of like a comeback from that, where once again, there's many times where he probably could kill her, but he didn't, and he's really trying to set her free.
Yeah. I think them setting that aspect of his character up has been really done well so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really sympathizes with people who didn't choose to be the way they are.
Right, and that's because of him. And once again, we're like being a Witcher is not a voluntary thing.
Yeah.
You don't choose to be a Witcher.
Yeah.
Which that makes his plight so much more relatable than Yennefer, because Yennefer was forced to go to school, but she wasn't forced to transform. In fact, they weren't going to transform her appearance.
Yeah,
I don't know if the implication was that they were going to turn her to an eel if she didn't transform. I don't know. But like she took that final step.
Yeah, it just seems like she did it because everyone else was doing it and she didn't get it that moment.
Right. And she wanted power. Her biggest thing is wanting power, which is, that can be a good motivation for a character. It's just you want more power. Obviously, you need that power for something, and she does. But whereas Geralt is like, well, he was just abandoned as a child, and he was forced to become this.
Yes,
he has that sympathy for other people. It makes such a likable character.
Yeah.
I think Geralt's really likable. I mean, he's likable in The Witcher, but he's really likable in this because, first of all, he's Henry Cavill.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt.
And second of all, because he's a character where he's got the gruff exterior. He doesn't want to be around people, but he's sort of forced to. But and that sort of in itself makes you want to, it's like, oh, I want this person to like me because they don't like other people. And then you've got the other aspect where he's got the gruff exterior, but he has a very relatable and strong moral code where he doesn't want to harm anything really. He just wants to get by.
Yeah, and
so
also despite that gruff exterior and this whole time in the show where he's being asked like, "Oh, I hear they got rid of your emotions." Mm-hmm. He's clearly a very emotional character.
Yeah, and that's I really like that where it's where they talk about, I thought they removed all your emotions or whatever, and he's like, well, I can't remember what he says, but he says basically like, well, that makes it easier for you to kill me, basically.
Yeah,
or for you to hate me, more or less.
Yeah, so he tells one person that basically it's easier. That's just things people say to make you hate Witchers, and it's another reason is that it's also easier for them to drive up their price because they're not they appear unemotionally.
Right, they're not swayed.
Yeah,
right.
They're not swayed by emotion. So if you really need a job done, you'll pay him the best price.
Which that's great, and like the reveal of him saying that would have so much more of a punch if he wasn't like very emotional already. And it's kind of a little bit of a problem I have with this initial series or initial season is that he is like pretty emotional. Like I'd say he's like on par or more emotional than pretty much every other character. Like, so you kind of blunt your own punch there, because that'd be if he was completely like stone faced the whole time, and then all of a sudden you realize, I don't remember what episode that is, and he says it, but all of a sudden you realize, no, he does feel emotion. He just like can't afford to, more or less.
Then that's like, get some fucking sleep. That one,
right?
That one was like just an explosion of emotion.
Relatable. Hashtag when you ask you're not letting you sleep. I'm looking for a gin. A genie. I fucking hate Yaskier. But yeah, so I really like the idea of, once again, it's like addressing real world issues without being overly preachy about it. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I thought you people didn't feel pain, or I thought like you people didn't have emotions. Like that's literally what people say when they're being racist against the people.
Yeah.
Like those are literally things that have been said, like, oh, they're resistant to pain, that sort of thing. It's like, no, people are people. So I like that aspect of it a lot. The problem is that the way he's written, he's very emotional from the beginning, which obviously it makes him more fun to watch
Right.
in some
It
ways.
just sort of
Although I would have liked it.
defeats.
I
The
think it would
purpose
have been funnier if he was more stone faced all the time,
Yeah.
and so you'd have better like comedic effects against that.
Yeah.
But from the beginning, he's very emotional, and sometimes that makes him feel very high school as well, sort of alongside Yennefer, especially in the scenes when he's with Yennefer.
Yeah.
The one scene where, I mean, we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves here, but where he tells her like, "Oh, I've said more to you." I think it was during the Dragon Hunt episode.
Yeah.
I've said more to you in a week than I've said in months. And it's like, but like him saying that and the way he's saying it feels like very corny Twilight weird.
Very,
like I don't know.
Very sad boy.
Yeah, it just feels like very like adolescent and strange, and doesn't seem like something Geralt would say.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, and you can say that in a better way that sounds cooler for your main character.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just the way they have the season 1 set up with all these short stories. It sort of doesn't lend itself to being unemotional for, because
Right.
each episode
Well, yeah,
is its
everybody
own
develops
story.
too quickly.
Yeah, everyone's developing in one episode. So all these major emotional points that happen in his life, which basically these events that happen to him are teaching him that it's okay to be emotional almost. That sounds
Right.
like a very middle school teacher thing to say to students, but that's essentially what's happening.
Yeah, I mean that's part of his character arc, but the problem is he really didn't need to learn that because obviously he's okay with emotions. It's very weird.
I think last thing about the third episode. I mean, again, not too much happens this series. She, at the end of this episode, she goes as she enters that forest.
Mhm.
The other thing is we're introduced to Triss, and this is a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like this Triss.
So, in order to frame my arguments, let me ask you: in the books,
Yeah.
if you remember,
Mm-hmm.
her character, like, is she introduced as like sort of like an equal rival of interests for Geralt? Like, is he sort of like torn between her and Yennefer?
No.
So he's not in the books. It's
That's really something the games did.
right. That's more so the game. I mean, games love to give you like romance options.
Right. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. She is a romance option, and they have romances in the short stories, and she's part of the saga as well. But in the books, she is nothing compared to Yennefer. Yennefer is the one in the books.
Right.
So, in that sense, I mean, like, a lot of these people are kind of mean-spirited in what they're saying about this particular actress, saying she's like, "What's happened to my beautiful Triss?" I mean, I don't really feel that way about it. Maybe one, because I've always liked Yennefer better.
I think most people do.
So it's just like I think people who were introduced to The Witcher from the games and maybe haven't read the books like Triss more, because the games did focus on Triss more. Yennefer is not in game 1 or 2. She's only in 3. Triss is in all 3, and you can have romances with Triss in all 3. So I think that's where that sort of anger comes from.
And so, like, to address that, obviously, like, I give two shits about like how Triss looks.
Yeah.
I don't care how these fake characters look. Like Geralt could be very ugly for all I care. I don't really care about that. But not to say that I'm a saint. I care about those things in my personal life, but when I'm watching something, I don't fucking care. She's not, in my opinion, on par with Yennefer in terms of looks, because it's not like they look like they're years apart in terms of age. Like they don't look like they're.
I think they
You know
are.
what I'm saying?
I think they are.
So I don't know if
The
that's like
actresses.
canon as well.
Uh,
I'm sure the actresses are.
the actresses are. I don't know if I can't remember if the characters are. But again, it's just like
People are just being rude and just being like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, if they have
once
a problem,
again, it's very high school.
yeah, if they have a problem with that, they're gonna have a problem with how little involved she is going to be in the show.
Right, and people might be listening to this and think like, "Oh man, these guys are talking about this female character and they're only about her looks." It's like she appeared in the series for a couple of sentences and she doesn't do anything. She's not a part of season 1. Like,
yeah, really not. She's in
am I wrong? I don't think she ever does anything. She makes the door of roots at one point in like the final episode.
Yeah,
and then that's basically it. She's just one of the sorceresses.
yeah.
I don't remember what kingdom she's from, or is like in the court of.
I can't remember either.
But like, she's not really a character.
Oh, Temeria.
So I think people are Temeria.
She's Foltest's mage.
I think fans of the game are sort of upset that there's not more of like a love triangle thing going on, which I hate, by the way. I don't like having to like focus on the romance stuff. Which I'll bring up in the dragon episode.
There really isn't going to be any sort of love triangle. Like, I mean, yes, Geralt and Yennefer are not destined. They're bound to each other because of the djinn and whatever. We'll get there.
Right.
But really, the books are about Geralt's relationship to Ciri. That's the main thing.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, like the story should be more than who Geralt is fucking.
Yeah.
Because if it was just about that, then it's like pretty much just a Twilight or any sort of other,
If it was about that, bring Shani on board.
Shani?
Yeah, she was in the second game and she was in the third game. There are romance options in both. And she's just like, she's the most easygoing character of all the three. So a lot of people really like her as well. But she's such a
best girl.
Yeah, she's really a nobody.
Dunked on her. That's episode 3. I mean, I think that's pretty much everything. We've gone well beyond episode 3 in a lot of our talk, but
so let's do 4. 4 is the banquet. This episode, like, it gave me chills. I won't lie. I
not gonna lie,
because when I read it, when I read this story, it was just really cool. All the fights, and then the guy who's cursed, who's a knight, who wants Pavetas to marry him, and then Geralt at the end invoking the law of surprise. This was all like really cool to read, and then to see it pretty well done, especially the fights. I thought was awesome.
It was very fairy tale like.
It was, and The Witcher does not shy away from fairy tale.
Oh yeah, they do a lot of that, which I don't mind that at all. Yeah. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, this is very fairy tale like, so I see it in a different way, but I don't have any problem.
Yeah. So, I guess to gloss over quickly what happens to Ciri. Ciri goes into the forest, and she meets the Dryads. Now, the Dryads are not supposed to be human. I'm pretty sure.
I was wondering about that. That's why I called them like the tribe or whatever, because they just look like a tribe of people.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like tree people. They look like trees.
I mean, they should be almost like dryads. Dryads are wooden creatures. They're like basically made of trees and branches and stuff.
That's what they're supposed to be.
PG budget was stretched.
Yeah, so that's sort of weird. Also, that hasn't happened yet. That's supposed to not happen yet in the books.
Oh, really?
She's not supposed to have gone into the forest yet, because
I think they probably laid out their timelines and realized that they had a bunch for Geralt to do, had a bunch for Yennefer to do, and they're like, well, what should Ciri do?
Yeah. See, I don't think there's an issue with like stretching out Ciri's story where we first hear about Ciri through the banquet, and then years later Geralt meets her, and then this happens and that happens, and then at the end they're reunited. Because the first time she enters the forest is actually with Geralt, and that's when they first bond, really.
Oh, okay, that's a lot
So
different then.
it's really different. That aspect of it is really different, but I don't remember
I'm
much
guessing
of
in
it.
the story she doesn't run into a young elf
No,
either.
he's made up too.
Right.
So, I mean, there's some changes. I'm like I said, I'm not
I
fully.
don't feel one way or another about
Yeah,
having
it's
that sidekick character.
yeah. I don't mind either way. It's just sort of. I do feel like she should be a younger character, just because a younger girl finding a father figure is more believable when she's like 8 or 10 rather than 14.
Mm.
But anyway, uh, with the banquet, I thought a lot of it was really well done. Um, I mean, just to skip ahead to the part of to the reveal at the end. So, Dooney,
Oh my god, you're skipping all the way there.
just to the end of the episode, because it'll relate back to everything. So
Okay.
Dooney insists that Geralt gets rewarded for saving his life, and Geralt says,
Hmm.
"No, you seem like a good guy. I don't want nothing." And Dooney's
Right.
just like, "No, please, I want to reward you."
Right. He
So
forces him to take something.
yeah, and then Geralt on a whim does the law of surprise. Now that's funny, but it's almost like Marvel funny. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't watch Marvel movies, so I don't, you're more of an expert on that.
It's it's just
You felt like it was too stupid of comedy, or
it's very
that
convenient.
reveals how I feel about Marvel movies, by the way.
Yeah, it's very convenient
When you
comedy.
say,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's the whole show is very convenient. The whole season one is
I
very
mean,
convenient, a lot of
yeah,
convenience. But that also goes into the fairy tale aspect of it in Fate, which is a big theme, like from episode 4 onwards, basically
that's true. But the thing
about
is,
fate.
in the books, he doesn't do this on a whim. I think in the
He
books,
like chooses. He says, "That's what I want."
he like what I remember, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure what happened was he noticed some signs from Pavetta that she was pregnant, and him being asked all night why he's a part of a dying breed. Oh, we can't make witchers anymore. Blah 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 blah. He wants
Mm,
he wants more witchers. So knowing that she's pregnant, he's hoping she has a boy and that he becomes his kid.
that's very different.
So it's almost like, yeah, he's a good guy and he's saved all these people and he saved Pavetta, and then he does a dick move at the end.
Right. Yeah, he's also self motivated.
Yeah, so it was kind of it's a funny read. On top of that, so I think the
I
whim
think I think they probably thought that that would sort of turn people away from liking Geralt.
maybe. I mean, I don't fully mind the whim thing. It's funny and it sort of goes with his character not wanting to be rewarded, and he has his code and everything.
I mean, it's a proven formula.
Yeah.
Give a gruff guy a kid that he didn't want.
Yes.
That's like well, that too, but like that's like the plot of so many movies and stuff. Like
Yeah. I mean,
people love that kind of shit.
people love the what do you call it? The it's not the phrase is an unwilling hero, but the something hero, reluctant hero.
Reluctant hero. Yep.
People love that. That's a Geralt. That's Arthur from Red Dead. That's Wolverine.
Mhm.
People love that. So I
A
don't.
hero who isn't self-righteous.
Yeah. So I didn't mind overall, but the fact that they set up in the episode where the queen's like, "Why are there so few of you left?" It sort of lent itself pretty well to how the books did it, and they've been setting up from the beginning like, "Oh, you're
Mhm.
alone, you're alone, you're alone." So
But it's never hinted at that Geralt knows she's pregnant. Well, actually, no, he
no,
definitely doesn't, because
no, he doesn't.
pretty much as soon as he says that,
Fuck.
uh, she throws up,
Yeah.
which I thought was like a negative reaction to the magical whirlwind thing. So I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what was going on. But then the implication is like she's getting sickness because she's pregnant.
She's
And then
pregnant.
Geralt's like,
Now-
"Fuck," and walks out.
Yeah, that's the weird thing too. Is I don't get why her magical ability didn't do anything to Dooney.
You mean when they were spiraling around?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure what happened in the books was that she was killing everyone because she can't control her powers,
Hmm.
and what Geralt had to do was knock her out in the books or stop her in some
That's
way.
that's basically what she does here.
Yeah, it's just sort of like
She's not really killing anyone though. It's just sort of like a strong wind.
yeah, but it's just I don't get why she's spiraling with Dooney in the air and she's like whispering Elven.
Okay, so that's not a thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I figured that was just something I didn't know.
It could be. I just I don't remember it that way. The way I remember it was that they have basically her magic ability. Part of her magic ability is that scream. And
Now, let me tell you how I feel about that.
that is canon though. The scream.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I do not like it. So, like, the trope of a female character screaming as their power is I've always hated that. I always thought that was so fucking stupid. It's just like that's like the lamest thing. I don't know. I don't like it.
I think. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think it sort of works when it's a power you can't control. I don't know. It's just the vision, the image of someone screaming for a power they can't control. It just sort of works for me, at least.
I mean, it would work like the first time they ever did it, but it's used in everything. Like, I don't know. I'm so sick of that. Like it for so many things in this reminded me of Stranger Things for some reason. And like so like little girl who has screaming power she can't control, and like I was like, also later on when the sorceresses are defending that ruined castle thing,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is doing her constipated face and doing magic, and then her nose bleeds
Oh,
in like that iconic.
Yeah.
I was like, "What are you guys doing? Like, did no one see this and say like, well, this is kind of like this is not very unique to us? Yeah. Like, this looks a lot like Stranger Things, which is like such an iconic thing on Netflix." Which is just it's so stupid. But
that's probably why.
I'm not a big fan of the screaming power they're not in control of. Obviously, it's like it's a tried and true thing, but I don't really like it that much. Mm. I didn't really like the whole vortex thing in the banquet. I thought it went on like comedically long, like how many times they cut back to Geralt shuffling forward and then being knocked back and then shuffling forward and then eventually getting her down.
Yeah.
Like I laughed a little bit at that part. I think it was supposed to be dramatic. I don't think it was supposed to be funny.
No. Well, I don't know if you remember this part of the games, but Mousak is Ermion in the games.
Is that supposed to mean something to me, or is that just a different name?
He has a different name, but he is a character in the third game. I don't
remember that.
Okay. When Geralt's in Skellige, he meets a mage who's got like a staff and a big hat.
Mm-hmm.
That's him. But I guess we'll get to my greater point later. When it comes to Mousak, I like Mousak's character a lot, actually.
I do. I'm kind of sad that he dies.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing I was gonna get to. He doesn't die in the book, so I don't get why they killed him.
I don't get why these. Oh my god, I'm fucking freaking out.
Maybe he doesn't die.
Well, maybe he's not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe because they stabbed once into him, but he's a magical dude. Who knows?
Well,
okay, so
and since you're somewhat familiar with the games, this is sort of a spoiler alert for people who haven't played the games but have read the books, and it's a spoiler for people who are just watching the show. So Dooney is Emir.
Who is Emir?
Ciri's dad in Witcher 3.
But of course he's Ciri's dad. What does that mean?
Well, it's supposed to be. Well, in the books, it's a surprise because he's known as Dooney or Urchion of Erlenwald, right? And he's this cursed knight. But then you don't hear about him for a very long time. You just hear about this guy who's rallied the people of Nilfgaard and turned Nilfgaard into a real empire, and his name is Emir var Emrys. and then
Oh, so he's Nilfgaardian.
I don't know if he's Nilfgaardian, but he gets control of Nilfgaard. I don't know how. I don't know if he's
Huh.
Nilfgaardian exactly, but um, he ends up ruling Nilfgaard, and that's supposed to be a big surprise in the books. And it's just sort of weird because
So he doesn't die in the boat.
no,
So they just did that so they could write him off from the series.
no. I mean, in the books, he's dead on the boat. Is the thought, which is like
Oh, but he's not actually dead.
yeah. So it's just sort of like a weird thing.
He
Like
just went on to Nilfgaard to. Okay.
yeah, so it's supposed to throw you off the scent basically.
Hmm.
Um, and later they meet up, and then Geralt just recognizes him because of his abilities, like of smelling, I guess.
Talking about smelling a lot.
um, but yeah, that's sort of like a. I mean, that's like a cool thing. I don't know. It was weird for me reading the books. I knew he was Emir. It's just I'm like, when's Emir coming back? He can't be dead. But overall, I really liked episode 4. I thought it was more than solid, and the fight scene with all the royalty fighting each other was really cool. I thought.
What do you think of What do you think of the lying queen of Sintra?
I like the actress a lot.
Oh yeah, she's good.
She's sort of, I don't know. She gave me a different vibe in this episode than the first one.
Which episode did she appear in before this?
The
Oh, like yeah. When it's the end.
yeah, the end of Sintra in the first one.
Well, I think that's one of the more interesting things they do with the multiple timelines thing is at first when you first see the kingdom falling, you feel, you know, a lot of sympathy for her. I can't remember her name. I just remember that she's the
Calanthe.
Lion Queen of Sintra, Calanthe. I'm gonna forget that. You feel a lot of sympathy for her as they're storming the castle, and she, drops herself off the edge. But as the timelines pan out and you go back to the end
Mm-hmm.
again, you realize that she may
Had
have or
this.
may have not, we don't
Yeah.
know, but caused this to happen by going against fate.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's, I mean, like, I for the majority of that episode, I was just like understood her reasons for her daughter not wanting to marry this cursed dude.
Yeah.
Because he looks like Sonic.
yeah, he
Uh,
looked like he looked like Sonic before they did the fix.
yeah. Um, but as soon as she tries to kill him after she looks like she's accepted him, that was just.
Oh yeah, I mean she's sort of like a reprehensible character.
Yeah, she really is.
But I kind of like that. I mean, I like I like the whole. You don't get as many characters like that where it's, eh, especially it's royalty and it's female royalty where she just kind of likes to fight
Yeah.
and she likes to conquer and that's just her character. So like she wants to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
She joins in the court the ballroom fight or whatever just because she wants to kill basically.
Yeah.
And when she's coming back from battle and she's acting like a total Chad. Um, so I actually like her character. What I didn't like was when sometimes they go really overboard with that, where like, because she's kind of like she's like slightly older
Mm-hmm.
and she's like not ripped or anything, but like, and she doesn't even appear to be that skilled with swords. And yet like she can kill everybody. It feels a little bit like, okay, this is the character, so
Yeah,
everything goes around
her
this.
sword skills were really exposed in the first episode on the battlefield. The way she's holding
And
it.
that's the annoying part of. Oh well, that's just like stylistic, which is stupid. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the way she was swinging her sword was like really just.
There's so many. I feel like there's a lot of scenes where people are using the backhanded technique, where they're
Yeah.
holding a sword like with the back against their forearm, holding the blade.
Yeah.
It's weird. But so I really like characters like her, but I really dislike when they do things like when her husband is shot with an arrow all of a sudden she takes a break on the battlefield. She just takes a break, and she's crying over him, and then she builds up her strength and charges after them.
Yeah,
But
and
like
then
nobody bothers.
yeah, that's sort of weird. Just like she's on the ground. This is the leader of your enemy, and no one's trying to kill her.
And the fact that like her husband got killed by an arrow, and then I believe the archer who shot her is the guy who's chasing after Syria, right? I can't remember his name.
Yes. So the guy, that's another problem I think with this show. This is a genuine problem. I feel like this is gonna be a weird thing they're gonna have to clean up. So the guy who shot her with an arrow, Kahir, the guy with the winged helmet,
Yeah.
and
Which I
actually,
like his helmet.
yeah, that's like a
I like
really
the design of his armor.
the helmet thing is a really prominent thing in the books. It's a big part of Ciri's nightmares because she gets chased by him.
Right. Yeah.
So he's
there's that
supposed to
iconic look.
be he's supposed to be this like in her imagination this monster.
Yeah.
Um
Which makes more sense when she's 8 years old.
yeah, exactly. Not when you're 14. I mean, I guess a bit. Maybe I'm being harsh, but
Right. Having your
um,
parents killed is still hard, but well, I guess your grandparents.
so the husband gets shot by him. And that scene kind of gave me chills because it's like, ooh, it's Kahir.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's one of those great moments where it's going to happen when people are being like conversational on a battlefield,
Yeah.
and then someone turns. It's like someone's going to get it.
Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, the winged helmet, that's Kahir. Here's the thing, we're supposed to like Kahir.
Oh, are we?
Kahir joins Geralt.
No way.
So this is the thing.
This series is. I mean, this season's like trying to poison you against him. Like they're making you hate him.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're sort of done with episode 4. Um, we're going ahead a bit. Kahir, while he's trying to track Ciri down, I can't remember what it was that makes him a good person, but he becomes a good guy and he joins Geralt and he joins Ciri and they're like the ragtag misfit family with a couple other characters that we'll meet later.
Right.
But in this show, he actually is a monster.
But yeah, and they make him purposefully evil, which is one of the problems I have with the show. One of my more major problems. You've got, of course, my problems with Yennefer's motivations, and then the sort of lack of, or they sort of lose a direction of moral ambiguity. I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's a big part of The Witcher is like
Moral ambiguity.
where it's like, okay, well, sort of as they said in the first episode, the lesser evil. Like, okay, well, how these are both bad. How do I navigate this to try to be the most moral I can be while still doing bad things?
Mm-hmm.
This season feels like Nilfgaard are religious zealots. They're all evil. Everyone else is good. Let's all band together. There's only one option here. Let's fight Nilfgaard.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how the story usually is, but it just feels very like bad guy, good guy. Go ahead.
Right. I mean, Nilfgaard I think they're seen as the aggressive ones just because they're the ones currently trying to take over all these kingdoms.
Right. I mean, it is alluded to that Sintra is like very warlike as well, and could have even pushed Nilfgaard to do this.
Right.
But it just feels a lot like Nilfgaard is just like, these guys are super evil.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, I mean, let's go ahead to episode 5, which sort of plays into Kahir being this monster. He gets that Doppler to kill Mousak.
Oh, is that in episode 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is no Doppler that kills Mousak.
Oh, really?
So he just seems like a weird character to have made for that purpose, especially when there was no need for him.
So Mousak doesn't die in the original stories.
No.
And in this one, he does die, and he gets a Doppler to do.
Yeah, so this one he dies, and a Doppler goes and gets Ciri and Brokilon. Again,
Right.
Doesn't happen. But
I don't really understand some of the creative liberties they take.
yes, it just seems counterproductive to what's supposed to happen.
Right.
But anyway, that's Kahir and all that. This is the episode where Geralt and Yennefer are bound to each other because of the djinn.
Right. I think it starts with Geralt looking for the djinn in the lake.
It gets there, yeah. I just want some fucking sleep.
Non-emotional Geralt fishes for sleep.
Yeah, so like again, I can't remember too many of the details, but essentially, Yennefer is trying to trap the djinn. The djinn, when it is trapped and doesn't have all three wishes completed, gets very aggressive, and in order to set it free and save her, he makes the wish to be with her forever, or something along those lines.
To never be without her or something like that. I can't
Yeah, so it's just sort of that motivation felt very weak to me because
is that what happens in the original stories?
yes,
right. Does it feel less sudden? Like, do they have more development, or is it just does it always feel premature?
I think it's sort of there, but I don't know. It's hard to say because I read these things basically retroactively.
Right.
So like I knew he wished a djinn for them to bound them from Witcher 3. So it's just sort of like but like on its own in this show, it just sort of doesn't work quite yet.
Well, yeah, because when you discover it, you don't discover it right away, but you discover it later on when they're getting on together well. And when you think about it, him wishing that right then, I mean, like, what the fuck? Like, you just saw her. I mean, she's attractive, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe he's supposed to be, like, enchanted by her. Like, she has, that
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of
I mean, that could have been part of it. He might have still been feeling the effects of it. I mean, that's partly why he feels so strongly about Renfrey, is because she enchanted him.
Right.
So
that could be part of it, but it did feel very odd when I found out that he wished for that. I'm like, well, why would you do that? This is
That's
the
a
episode where they're like in the bath together, right?
Oh yes, the callback to the games.
Right. So that I mean, I was a big fan of watching that scene. You didn't really get too much out of it. It was sort of like
I think
him and Yennefer flirting.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like them flirting and doing banter, which again could have.
I guess that scene is supposed to be what motivates him to ask to be with her forever.
Yeah, because he never
doesn't make any sense.
Well, he's like, go ahead, ask about her. They always do. She's like, well, I'm not everyone else. He's like, oh, then I'll wish to be with you forever.
Yeah. Oh, I'm different than other girls. Yeah, I don't know. It's like that stuff was fine, but I mean, I wasn't really interested in her taking her clothes off, which was nice.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it's not a big problem. It's just they haven't fully earned that moment yet, I feel like.
Right.
And
of course, the whole reason he's there is because Jaskier was choked out by the genie, and he didn't tap, and and so it's also an episode where you sort of you're learning that he does really care about Geralt cares about Jaskier.
Yeah, which was nice.
And I think Yennefer teases about, and I mean it's more or less it. It's just. Do you have anything else to say about the episode? Because I kind of want to move on to the next one. I can't think of anything.
We can go right next to the episode 6.
Right, episode 6.
Dragons.
Rare species. Which I thought it was weird, just to go directly to the Yennefer thing. Once again, 8 episodes, all put out at once. A little less probably than 8 hours of content. We're seeing Yennefer again, and she talks about, like, oh yeah, well you had left that time after we fucked, and like it goes to like 20 scenes of them being together, and so we're supposed to understand that they have like this very like on again, off again relationship.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what, when, like, what is this? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Just
So
because you're telling me that that happened, it doesn't make me feel like you guys have a connection.
yeah. So again, I think in fairness to the show, the books were sort of like that too. It's just you didn't
Okay.
know at what who Geralt was with, depending on what short story.
Hmm.
So it's just like you would it's sort of like the show. It's just like, oh, next story it would be years later, and Geralt and Yennefer haven't seen each other.
I like the idea of that, where it's just like it's not so much of a big deal. It's just that they run into each other every now and then, and eventually they
But
become like this thing.
but the thing is, they run into each other all the time because of the wish he made.
Right, because of the wish.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Which is discovered in this episode, I
yeah.
believe. Which once again loses a little bit of impact because it's directly the next episode, and like
That's
nothing
true.
has happened for us in between these two episodes.
Yeah.
But it starts off with Geralt in the bar, and the man and his two warriors approach him, asking him to go on the dragon hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
This was probably my second favorite short story from the
I really like this episode.
like the guy being revealed as the golden dragon. I thought was when I was reading, I'm like, oh, that was cool. I can't
To
remember
be honest with
exactly.
you,
Mm-hmm.
I guessed it right from the beginning.
Okay.
No previous knowledge. I looked at him,
Mm-hmm.
and then
He's
I
sort of
looked at
dressed like a dragon.
his vest,
Yeah.
right? The scales on.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's the dragon. I mean, maybe not directly from. I saw his vest and I thought, oh, that was weird. And as soon as he mentioned golden dragons, I'm like,
Yeah.
he's a golden dragon. It's like it was so obvious.
Right. Well, I think it's probably not as well hinted in the books. There's all that, and there's Geralt's conversations with Yennefer, where he's talking about needing her, and what was the thing you hated? Oh, saying more in.
I've said more in a week than I've said in 6 months or whatever to you.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just sort of
basically you make me open up.
Yeah, it's very very middle school, high school.
Yeah. Well, this whole episode, I mean, it is one of my more favorite ones, but just because I'm a fan of, and we talked about this before, but I'm a fan of like when you've got this series, but you've got these like bite-sized
Episodes.
like story.
Yeah.
So like this is just like sort of an aside, like, okay, there's a dragon going on, let's go on the dragon hunt. Like I think that's fun. Of course, the whole thing is sort of set up very like a Twilight or something meant for teens, where he goes on the hunt because he sees her.
Mm-hmm.
She's going on the hunt with the knight, and then the whole time he's like very jealous, which I thought was kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because once again, the unemotional Geralt is like the whole time he's like very obviously being jealous, whereas I think his character would be more of he would be acting like it wasn't affecting him at all, but he would eventually like come clean about it or something like that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be like staring at him and being like, oh
Fuck.
yeah, fuck.
Like,
of course, Yennefer's with the knight just to serve her own purposes, which is
yeah, they
makes sense
also
with her character.
killed him off. I don't think he dies. The knight she's with.
He dies like right away.
Yeah, I don't think he's supposed to die in the books.
Oh yeah.
We get to meet.
I mean, he's kind of inconsequential, honestly.
Yeah, he is. I mean, we get to meet Yarpen Zegrin, who is really good friends with Zoltan, who is one of Geralt's best friends in Witcher 3. So that was
Right. Yeah.
That was kind of exciting.
Was he the main? Was he the main leader of the dwarves?
Pretty much.
The bald guy.
Yeah.
Um.
And then what else? Oh yeah, so that's also the episode where they find out that Mousek's Doppler was a Doppler, and then Ciri escapes the forest.
While they're on the mountain, they cut back to Ciri over and over with the Doppler when she's with her elf friend.
Yeah, so it was just sort of weird to me that they would send Ciri into the forest and nothing happens, basically.
So you're saying when she went to the Dryad Forest?
So she goes into the Dryad Forest, and then she leaves. But nothing really happens in the Dryad Forest.
Well, I mean, she drinks the waters or whatever, and we sort of get the idea because like the waters don't work on her originally that she has like this sort of greater fate or
Yeah.
greater destiny or whatever. We
Yeah.
sort of get that idea. Um, in a lot of other shows, I feel like that would be the situation where they teach her how to fight or something. You know, like it would be one of those compilations. But I didn't do any of that. It's just sort of once again, it was just sort of like, okay, well, Yennefer and Geralt are doing stuff. We better have her do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then I guess it gives a place for the elf friend to go back to when he eventually leaves.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's not very. I mean, I didn't really like the Doppler stuff.
Yeah, me either.
I think the Doppler thing did like two good things. Well, one is that when they're characterizing, of course, at the time I didn't know that the Nilfgaardian was actually supposed to eventually be a likable character.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that actor. I can't remember his name, but he's in a lot of stuff.
The
Uh,
Doppler?
I thought it. No. The
Mousak?
the feather helmet.
Oh, Kahir. Oh, he was in.
Okay.
We talked about him when you were talking about some movie. I want to say it was the Hummingbird, Mockingbird.
I don't remember. He's been in a lot of movies I watched though. I like him as an actor. Although he does seem kind of young for whatever position he's in. I don't know if that's supposed to be purposeful or not, but
I don't like when I read the book. There are a few characters where I feel like that's pretty much how I pictured they would look, and Kahir is one of them.
But one of the things that the Doppler sort of helps characterize him as a bad dude. Like when the Doppler comes to him and then eventually becomes him, and then he loses track of him. He kills everybody in the camp.
Oh yeah.
So like he's really, and they're really like shoving that down your throat. And even his sorceress says like we could have just used a spell to figure out which one he was.
Yeah, and
He gets away anyway.
Yeah, that was probably worse than killing Mousak.
Right. Which on its own, like characterizing him as a bad guy, I like that. But if he's not meant to be, and they're gonna stick with stories, then that doesn't make sense. I'm guessing they won't the way they're heading.
It doesn't seem like
But
it. Or it's gonna make him. It's gonna make him very hard to.
Right.
To like.
And then also, I also kind of like the part where the Doppler it just becomes so annoyed by the children's questions.
Yeah.
That he gives up.
Yeah.
And just tries to kill. I like that. I like that a lot. But overall, those scenes just kind of dragged on.
Yeah.
And also, part of me just didn't like seeing this character that I liked being mimicked by this creature, and the kids are like not liking the character I liked. I don't know. But they go on to get to the dragon. I like the dwarves in this. Like they were honorable as compared to the reavers.
Yeah, they're the dwarves. I feel like in the games, in the books, they're very likable characters.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like they're there for the money, and so they say we'll go together up to here, and then after that, everybody for themselves, and they follow that. So get up to the dragon and all that. Once again, the whole sympathy from Geralt. He doesn't want to harm anything. He doesn't have to. The Golden Dragon is the man who recruited Geralt because he knew that Geralt would help him.
Yeah.
And so they fight off the Reavers who are trying to harm the dragon egg and the Golden Dragon's dead dragon wife, I guess. I don't really understand who the bodyguards were. Were they also dragons, or were they just humans who...
No, they're humans who are just, like, fascinated by Borch.
Right. I didn't like how, when he was talking, was he, like, beaming his voice into someone's head? Or was he speaking?
I think it was telepathic.
Because if it's telepathic, then I'm kind of okay with the fact that he kept the same old man voice with no change in, like, timbre or anything. But it was kind of weird when he turned into a dragon. He still sounded like tiny Michael Caine. It was weird.
And
And
it
the
looked like it was
CG
telepathic
once
because he
again
wasn't
was not
talking.
great.
No, it wasn't great. No.
Yeah, his mouth wasn't moving. So if it was telepathic, then that's fine, I guess. It was a little lackluster.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would have wanted it to be the same voice, but like a little lower in pitch or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the CG of the dragons was like pretty meh, especially like with the composites where like Geralt is standing in the foreground.
Yeah.
And like the dragon's laying there with the egg. It looked kind of bad. And the last nitpick I have for that episode is when, when Yennefer and Geralt are fighting at the mouth of the cave to keep off all the Reavers
Yeah.
who are coming in. And
She has the
at one
sword
point
skills.
well, she has the sword skills, which is never talked about, which is like, okay, we've seen the Lion Queen have like not great sword skills, but apparently she's the greatest fighter in the world. So okay, whatever. Maybe Yennefer learned sword skills somewhere. We don't know. Obviously, a lot of time has passed that we haven't seen either. So maybe she knows everything. But the point where like her and Geralt do like some weird spin move and then they kiss and then there's a magic blast.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I was watching that. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, y'all just did a kiss move to kill the Reavers? What the fuck is that? And like, it's not mentioned. It's just something they did. It was very strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt very teen romance as well. And then she finds out about him making that wish. And so she's,
Like,
I mean, her
yeah.
character is very much about like being the master of her own destiny,
Yeah.
basically. So of course that's terrible to her to think that she's been with Geralt because he's basically forcing her to.
Yeah, which is
through
sort
magic.
of, it's understandable. Like,
Yeah,
especially
no,
for her.
I mean, that,
Like being someone who was for so long of her life was treated so poorly,
mhm.
and then to finally have her own fate, and then to be bound to this fucking guy who just met her once and
made that wish for some weird reason.
Yeah. But
So
again,
that was a good.
Yeah, her character's just a little all over the place.
Yeah, I mean that's way more understandable than her being mad at the
Mm-hmm.
I'll just call it the Wizards College.
I think
for
I might be mistaken, but I think in the short stories this is the last time he sees her until the saga. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
So this genuinely pisses her off so much they don't see each other for years.
I think that's sort of how it goes because he doesn't see her for the next couple of episodes. Right?
Yeah.
Well, some of the episodes are like before the first episode anyway,
Yeah.
so it's sort of.
So.
But that's basically how it ends.
Yeah. With the, I sort of want to talk about the last two episodes as one because they're sort of a two-part thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we see Nilfgaard's about to come to get Sintra, and that's when Geralt decides to finally get Ciri.
Yes.
I think in the books what actually happened was, I could be wrong on this one. This one is probably the one I have the weakest memory on. So I think what it was is that he's being told by so many people, hey, your destiny is out there. Why aren't you getting it? Why aren't you getting Ciri? And he's still rejecting destiny. He keeps rejecting it. And then he realizes very late that, holy shit, she's in trouble. He should go get her.
Right.
And then he sees that because he's late, he sees that the city has been sacked and she's potentially dead. And he is, for the first time in a long time, feels guilty and is kind of mourning. Because he has met her at this point. He's met her a couple times. Nothing significant, but he knows her. And he feels that because he rejected destiny for so long, that's the chaos that occurred, was that the city was sacked and she was killed because of it.
Right. So more so his fault than the Queen's fault.
Right. It's supposed to be his fault, which I think works well. I don't think he was imprisoned. I don't think that's what happened. I think what it was that he just comes to the city too late.
And she's already gone.
She's already had the whole thing with Cahir, but she's escaped and she's with that farmer. the family of the
Right.
farmer guy. So, um, before we get there, I guess we'll talk about like the battle the mages have with Nilfgaard. So again,
Right.
that's something that hasn't been explored in the books. It's talked about a lot as the battle that killed a lot of mages,
Mhm.
but it's never actually been written about. I think the sort of weird thing is, so we meet this character Vilgefortz. I don't know if you remember him.
Was he the melee mage?
Yeah. So the
He was split classing. He was doing warrior and magician.
yeah. So he gets beaten by Kahir,
Yeah.
which is so weird because this guy is supposed to be an all-powerful mage who
Yeah.
gets bested by a knight.
Now, is that something that happens in the stories or no?
No. So like again, like the Battle of Sodden is never written about, but it happens. Like the battle happens, and a lot of sorceresses and mages die because of it. It's just, why would Vilgefortz get beaten up by Kahir?
Well, I mean, at least so he doesn't die from that.
No, he
So
doesn't
it's not
die.
like a final thing. And also, I
Sure.
think a lot of what the ending here is meant to be about is like the consequences of not controlling chaos.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got, well, it's sort of the positives and the negatives of it. Because him, I think they were like using telepathy to talk to him while he was fighting, and they were saying like basically stop using up all your swords, but basically stop using up all your magic.
Yeah.
Because he kept on pulling out new swords every day. Because I guess he sucks at sword fighting, because he kept on losing. But he kept on pushing himself, until, of course, he didn't have a blade, and then he gets knocked down the hill. And then later on with Yennefer, eventually
She controls
her
her chaos.
her teacher tells her to finally use that chaos, which she'd been telling her to not use all that time, and does it to scorch the earth, which in that situation helped the fight. So you're able to use that chaos positively, sort of. Um, so I think that's a lot of what it's about. Was just like sort of showcasing like control and not using control. Um, but yeah, I didn't really understand why he lost so badly to him,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't really see Kahir fight that much.
No,
He like shoots people with arrows,
and
and
he's a good knight. Basically, he's a very talented knight. But
right, he's a skilled knight, but like that doesn't mean that he could fight magic.
yeah, so
And I guess the magic guy didn't have any spells he could use. He just had swords, which like you just carry a bunch of swords. I don't know. It
yeah.
was weird to me how in these two episodes they were constantly using telepathy, and that was never a thing before in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could have been a cool thing to like share secret information between them. Maybe they were using it, we
They,
just weren't privy to it. But
I mean, they explored it a little bit in Aretusa, where they're all speaking to each other. They have to find out what the other one's fear is through
yeah, but I felt like that was more like mind reading than it was communication. I mean, yeah, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then obviously this is the episode where we find out the timeline, and that's when
Yes,
Geralt shows
everything
up,
starts
and he's
coming
in the
together.
yeah, and when Calanthe in the first episode says it's time, turns out Mousak was out there to get Geralt. Um,
Yes, we learned that, so that she came around at the end,
yeah, so that was kind of
but it
cool.
was too late.
That's sort of when I was like, okay, I'm for this timeline thing. Um, and I thought the fights with the ghouls was cool, and he's dying, and has a vision of his mom. So
Yeah, that was I was gonna ask about like how realistic is that to the existing
right, so
material.
what I will he does meet his mom, so that part is true. That that part where he's a kid, I I didn't like that.
Wait, he actually meets his mom? I thought that was a vision he had because he was like dying, and it was actually someone else helping him.
No, he meets his mom.
Oh, Okay, wow.
So, um, I don't think he was like. This is my memory. So in the show, it's that he gets treated, and it's not really clear if he actually meets his mom or if it's a vision, and he's being
Well, yeah,
treated
because he
by someone
sees other
else.
people too. Like I think he sees
Right.
Jennifer and some other people.
Right. And so, and he's also having flashbacks of his childhood. Again, I'm not.
Which were really corny and weird looking.
Yeah, it's just sort of like I.
Also,
I
I think it kind of deflates the character of Geralt to see him as this little boy
exactly.
who's annoying his mom in a
This
carriage.
the same goes with it deflates Yennefer's character with Yennefer's origin. Having bangs and dip in your mouth.
I mean, I like hers better. I think it could have been done better, but
Yeah.
yeah, I felt very strange about those scenes with Geralt and his mom.
Yeah, so all right, so I'm going to give some context because so this is the final short story before the saga.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing is, I read this book of short stories after I finished the saga. So,
Right.
him meeting his mom, that was the last thing I ever read. So,
Right.
it was like,
It made sense, sort of like conclusion.
yeah, it sort of made sense. It's sort of a conclusion flashback type thing. In the books, he's not mad at his mom. In this one, he gets mad at his mom because she abandoned him and all that. In the books, it's
Well, this is emotional, Geralt.
yeah. In the books, it's he notices he's being very well taken care of by a sorceress who's supposed to be a stranger.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he notices that she knows his name, even though he's never told her his name.
Right.
And then he makes it like, oh, you're treating me like a mother would treat their child or something like that. So he's it's like detective work, and he is a detective basically.
Right.
And then right after is when he sees Ciri. So all these are the most emotional things that is ever going to happen to him. And he thinks he's lost Ciri. The farmer offers him the law of surprise, something he has but does not know. He meets his wife. His wife says she's got a daughter, sort of. And then Geralt sees her, and they run and do the hugging thing. That happens. But she doesn't run away. She didn't run away first.
You're talking about in the original short story.
Yeah.
Right.
She doesn't run away, and they meet finally, and they have a conversation about her saying like, "I am your destiny." She's like an excited child. See, Geralt, I'm your destiny. Say I'm your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, actually, you're much more than just my destiny. So that being the conclusion to me reading the books was like really full circle type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my favorite short story because of that. I think I lucked out because it was the last one I read. So seeing the scene happen was kind of underwhelming. Right, it was
weird. Yeah.
Because they didn't have a relationship. So that emotional moment hadn't really been earned. And instead of saying something like, "You found me," which would be weird because they didn't know each other, she says, "Who's Yennefer?" Which I guess is fine because it shows that they're all linked.
Yeah.
Despite having never met.
What I found kind of weird, I think it's when Yennefer unleashes her chaos or whatever, and she's doing the big firestorm, she also communicates with Geralt and Ciri at the same time. And that's what leads them basically to find each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ciri went off in just like a random direction from the cabin, and then all of a sudden he randomly goes out into the woods and they run into each other because she's coming back.
Yeah.
So I think her doing her big unleashing chaos thing caused them to somehow sync up.
Yeah.
And then of course she's like, well, who's Yennefer? Because she heard her name in her head or whatever. I think that's what's going on there. Obviously it's very different from the source material.
Yeah.
And it felt kind of weird that she randomly went to the forest. He randomly went to the forest and they randomly met.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's sort of the fate thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or destiny thing. But it was a bit odd. especially after all the mother stuff, you're already kind of like taken aback by that, and then all of a sudden they see her and it's like, what? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I don't know. Like again, like these.
it's a great setup for season 2. Let me
Yeah,
say, because
it's
like you got like that like, oh, who's Yennefer, and then boom, cut, and it's
yeah.
like, okay,
That's very very TV.
yeah,
It's just I think I have spoiled myself accidentally just by the order in which I've read the books,
mm-hmm.
because as I was reading that short story, I'm like, wow, this would actually make a great story to spread out over a final season.
Mm.
So all the things would be happening. I don't want to spoil everything, but Siri would be already grown up, and they've already established a relationship. They're father-daughter, but it then takes you back to the first time they ever met, and how it almost didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think it
Yeah.
would have been a great callback thing to do. But again, this is all in my head, so it's unfair for me to
Right,
be
if it actually
disappointed in
would
the
be,
show for something that's in my head.
Yeah, I thought it was a fine ending.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I have no context for that, but I thought it was like, it is kind of lazy that I can sort of put aside any sort of like, well, that's convenient, by just saying like, oh, well, it's destiny. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not good writing.
Yeah.
So the way they find each other pretty randomly, because I guess by Yennefer communicating with them when she unleashes the chaos, shows that she still cares about Geralt,
Mm-hmm.
and through that is somehow tied to Ciri.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're supposed to take from it. I thought it was, I was looking forward to when he would find Ciri,
Yeah.
because I felt like everything before that, just sort of a prologue,
Just
and
a
then we're
filler.
really going to get into it,
Mhm.
right? Once he finds her. So now we know he's found her. We can move on from that. I would honestly prefer if the mother stuff wasn't even in it.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
if
that kind of character is kind of better when he just says like, I didn't know my mother, basically, and
yeah.
that's as far as it goes.
So I think that's sort of why the way I had it pictured in my head kind of works, because if we've known him for years as this guy who doesn't know who his mother is and stuff like that, and then suddenly he's had an interaction with her in the past, it's just sort of something he brushed off. I think it works better.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to season 2, even though that's 2 years from now, apparently.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, but I mean, I guess they were trying to see like, okay, is this gonna do well
Yeah.
before they started, really getting into it. Um, I think from what I was reading, like a second, actually, no, I think second season will happen even no matter what happened with the first season. I think that's what I read, that they already had slated for a second season to take place no matter what.
Yeah,
But the
there
fact that the
was.
first season has done well means that there will definitely be more seasons after the second season.
Yeah, so season 2 was already extended like a month or two before the show came out. So I guess they
Mhm.
watched it and thought this will do well. Um, yeah, maybe the 1 year was sort of a safety net in case it didn't do well.
It's kind of weird, honestly, because of how the show is set up, and how streaming is now. Everything comes out at once. You've got 8 episodes, and then within these episodes, everything is happening very quickly because there's only 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very. I mean, I've been complaining about it a lot. It's not that big of a deal how much it was rushed in terms of the development, but it
Mm-hmm.
is like a significant problem. It's
Yeah,
not. It doesn't ruin the experience, but it is a significant problem how things are paced.
yeah, and I think
It feels fast, and then we're gonna have to wait 2 years. So that's a very strange thing. I feel like that'll kill some people's hype.
maybe it's not 2 years because maybe they don't release it December 2021. Because I mean, this
Yeah, I
is the
mean,
end of
it could.
2019, so it could be that it comes out early 2021. So really, it's a year.
I mean, they should take as long as they need to, basically.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'd
I
rather
prefer
that.
not to have a rushed.
But now here's the thing: the girl who plays Siri is gonna be 20.
Finally legal. Well, I imagine they'll probably start with her being older anyway.
Yeah, But again,
Like
this
I almost
this
see it sort of like the start of Witcher 3 when they're Kaer Morhen or whatever, because he's talking about Vesemir and all that.
Oh, I'm so
I almost
excited
feel
for
like
that. I'm so excited to meet
I almost feel
Vesemir
like
and
they're gonna.
Eskil and Lambert.
I almost feel like they're gonna. Maybe they'll do the timeline thing again. I feel like they're gonna start it like The Witcher 3 started, where he's in Kaer Morhen. I'm saying that right, Kaer
Yeah,
Morhen.
Kaer Morhen.
He's in Kaer Morhen with Yennefer, and you're like, well, how's this happening? She was mad at him or whatever, and you see her as older, Ciri as older, and you see Vesemir in Ciri's training and the wild. Although I don't know, then you're throwing in the wild hunt and all that, and maybe there's stuff you want to do before that. I don't know.
Well, the books never got to the Wild Hunt,
I see.
so I don't know. The show might go further than the books. Who knows? If the show does go further than the books, then getting into like adapting Witcher Wild Hunt into a TV show wouldn't be a bad idea because the game did it so well.
So what do you think season 2 is going to start with? Because you know the books, so I have no
So
idea.
I think season 2 is going to start with them becoming that ragtag misfit family. The show is probably, as a season, is probably a 7.5 for me. Might
I
even
gave it a half more than me.
might even crack the 8.
Some episodes might.
I think like episode 1, episode 4, and episode 3. I think they crack 8.
Can we agree that episode 2 is our least favorite? I think it's my least favorite.
Yeah, I think episode 2 is my least favorite. It's just very slow and not much happens. Even Geralt, not much happens with him. He just gets captured by the elves.
The elves. That's interesting enough.
Yeah.
Where you sort of characterize him as not being scared to die.
Yeah.
Because the Eskier thinks he's bluffing or whatever, and he's just saying, "Well, if you're gonna kill me, do it quick." But he's like, "No, I'm just ready to die." Overall, pretty good. I want to see more. It's certainly not perfect. I think the CG is probably its worst aspect, which is good because that means that the acting and the screenplay and whatnot are certainly not its worst. So a little bit of problems with character motivation and consistency, but that's coming from a man who's never created anything like that.
And I think I agree. I think CG is probably the weakest thing about the show. Henry Cavill was clearly a good choice.
Clearly the strongest. I mean, have you seen those arms?
He actually is smaller than he was in Superman.
I was gonna say, I didn't want to I'm not trying to size shame him.
Yeah.
But I noticed multiple. It's kind of weird because it looks almost like he fluctuates in size.
Yeah.
But he seemed smaller to me than I remembered him. Not that I'm anywhere near his size, but just saying.
Yeah, I think he might be smaller. I think he's reading the comments and saying, Geralt's not jacked, he's slim.
I mean, I think that was something we brought up when we talked about it. Was that Superman Henry Cavill couldn't really do that because it's just too big.
Yeah. I remember watching the trailer and when he was all bandaged up and he was just fucking huge, but he didn't look as big.
See, this is what happens though, because if he listened to this podcast, he would hear this and then he'd be obsessed for weeks because you hate to hear that when you're working out. Oh, he's looking a little smaller than he used to.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Although for him, it's probably a purposeful choice because when you're an actor, I feel like you're entirely in control of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like Christian Bale and The Machinist.
Oh yeah.
That's what Geralt should have looked like.